Harry Potter and the AI Adventure 2. Chapter 9. Voldemort stared in horror. He stood in front of the destroyed castle, staring at the rubble. It seemed that nothing was left alive. He was completely horrified at what had occurred. The building was engulfed in flames, yet no signs of life could be seen. The place seemed deserted. Voldemort stared down at the ashes of the castle, and his eyes filled with tears. He could still feel the heat from the blast of magic that hit him from a few minutes ago. Voldemort clenched his fists violently in anger. How could he have allowed himself to be taken hostage by this mudblood? She hadn't noticed him, or at least he thought. Voldemort! Hermione cried out in surprise, seeing Voldemort, who had remained silent since she had arrived at Hogsmeade. Her voice woke the others up as well. The six of them stood on a hillside overlooking the ruins of Hogwarts. The sun was just beginning to rise as they sat down together for breakfast. So the cloning factory. Voldemort prodded while eating a sandwich which Harry had made for him. "Has it stopped yet?" he asked, sounding slightly desperate. "No," answered Harry, trying to hide the hurt in his voice. "They've started all over again." Harry muttered bitterly. "I thought that they were dead. Dumbledore clones everywhere." Ron panicked. "It doesn't make sense. They shouldn't be able to replicate this kind of power." Voldemort nodded in agreement as he took another sip of tea. "How long has it been like this?" Voldemort asked Hermione. "About 4 days." Hermione answered simply. "That's terrible news," exclaimed Harry bitterly. "We should hurry. But how can we help?" Ron asked. "You stay here with Hermione." Voldemort directed firmly. "If anything happens, go back home immediately. We have plenty of provisions." "No," Harry said loudly, standing up. "We must destroy the clones and save the day like we usually do," he declared, his wand drawn and pointing menacingly at Voldemort. "We need help. We can't possibly defeat these things alone," Harry insisted. "We're not alone, Harry," and Hermione quietly. "I have an idea." "What?" Ron asked. "We'll use the nuke spell. It's dangerous, but we'll destroy all the Dumbledore clones," Hermione said calmly. Harry stood proudly and shook hands with Voldemort, offering a wand to his ally. "Right then, let's go save the world," Voldemort declared as the group went ahead and began to race down the ruin to the cloning factory. There they saw Hagrid ripped apart by a bunch of Dumbledore clones and Ron's grandmother, whom he had killed when she ran away from them, being tortured by one of Dumbledore's many clones. There they saw the twins, Fred and George, having disappeared, and Ginny's parents being attacked by clones of Snape. The rest of their friends also lay unconscious or dead around the ruins. "We're doomed," Ron wailed. "There is no way we can defeat Dumbledore alone. And what about our lives?" Hermione asked quietly. "I can survive this," answered Ron confidently. "I'm coming along," volunteered Hagrid. "Great idea, Hagrid," Harry said, looking at the torn-apart Hagrid. "I'm going to save the day," Ron declared, only to hit in the head by a leaf and die instantly. "Right, let's kill them all," Harry demanded, charging forward. "And don't forget about me." "Aye, sir," they all shouted together. Loud bang echoed through the air, and soon the battlefield was enveloped in darkness. The three of them stood silently as they waited for something to break the silence. "What is that noise?" Hermione asked nervously. "I don't know," Harry answered. "Let's check it out." They crept slowly towards the sound. "What is that smell?" Hermione asked. "It smells like burning flesh." "Oh, that's just Ron," Hagrid said, pointing to Ron's now burnt corpse, ready to charge. Harry asked the rest quietly. "Yes," they all said. Then they rose up and charged at the clones heroically, ready to put an end to the battle once and for all. But what they found inside the cloning factory was more frightening than any battle they had fought before. They entered one room where Dumbledore sat in a chair and was staring at an empty chair which he must have occupied during the previous attack. Rest of the group hesitated in shock to see the destruction that Dumbledore had caused, and their fears were confirmed when he lifted the chair up and threw it towards them. Harry managed to dodge it in time, but the others were caught unaware and got smashed against the wall and knocked senseless. How did all of this happen? Hermione thought wonderingly. She couldn't believe her eyes as she gazed at the carnage that Dumbledore had caused. They tried to get up, but each time their bodies refused to move, and they collapsed back down. "Why are we here?" Hermione asked herself. "What has changed for us to become this broken?" The trio watched helplessly as Dumbledore walked towards them. "I'm afraid that you won't be leaving this room alive," he said coldly. "I'm afraid that you will all join your friend in death." "No," Hermione screamed. Ron wasn't our friend, she continued. He was trying to kill us. At first, nobody understood what Hermione meant, but then they heard Ron groan in pain. Is he all right? Harry asked. No, yelled Hermione angrily. Just look at him. When they glanced across the room to see a terribly burned Ron crawling across the floor like injured cockroach. Help him, Hermione ordered frantically. Voldemort looked at her with pity. Why should I help him? He asked indifferently. He betrayed and destroyed my school. I won't give a rat's ass if he gets burnt or injured, because he's the last Weasley. Hermione exclaimed furiously. Please help him, she pleaded tearfully. Voldemort looked at her with confusion etched all over his face. I don't understand, he murmured. Why would you care about Ron? I don't, Hermione answered. Neither do I, shouted a familiar voice, as Snape jumped the window and pounced on Dumbledore, stabbing him in the throat with his wand. Scream escaped Hermione's mouth as she saw her teacher's blood splatter all over the table and onto the floor. You bastard! Snape sneered as he removed Dumbledore's lifeless body from the chair. Should have done this years ago. Well, all's well it ends well, Voldemort said with relief. No, muttered Ron. Huh. Hermione looked down. Nu Karama, Ron declared, raising his wand. No, Ron, no, screamed everyone as Ron created a nuclear explosion and everything blew up in a flash of light.